Hey guys! It has been a really long time since I've done a video, and I have a really good reason for all of that. So that's what this video is about. This is my health update. So last time we spoke, I was in the process of getting referred to see a consultant about my fistula/abscess problem. IVF was on hold, and we didn't really know what direction we were going in. We were just sort of sitting and waiting. I saw my awesome consultant in November, and we discussed having an endoscopy for my intestines to figure out if there's something wrong with those, and to have an MRI to see about the fistula. So in December, I think it was December, that's what we did. And I have to be completely honest with you, having an endoscopy was the worst thing in my list of things that I've been through and done in the last 12 years with living with my endometriosis, even though this was obviously not about my endometriosis. So generally when I've had surgery in the past, I've had to have a laxative drink to clear out my bowels because sometimes, you know, endometriosis does attack the bowel. So I had a drink, it was called, I think it's pronounced Prep. It was fucking awful. It's the worst drink I've ever had. It made me vomit. It really burnt and hurt my intestines. It was extremely painful and it was just awful. The endoscopy itself, it was just meant to be the lower half of my intestines, and it was, but I got told that I was in too much pain for the camera to go further up. But as soon as they hit the gas, it was just extremely painful, and it took several days for the gas to go down, and it was just awful. However, maybe a week after having that, if that long, I ended up in hospital in A&E because I just couldn't keep any food in. I was in so much pain on my left side, and I was just vomiting all the time. We went in on, I think, on the Saturday or the Sunday, and basically I was having maybe an hour or 2 hour naps, was waking up, going to the toilet, and I was having a sip of water, and then I was throwing it back up again, and I couldn't keep anything down, and it was just really awful. So we went to A&E. It turns out I had some sort of infection. We hadn't had the MRI at this point. I spent just over a week in A&E. I got out on Christmas Eve. I managed luckily to escape. I think we were going to try and keep me in longer, but I was no longer in pain. I felt like being in hospital was holding me back from recovering further. So I wanted to go home, and obviously it was Christmas Eve. I wanted to go home. Who wouldn't want to go home? I'd had IV antibiotics for the whole time that I was there. I'd had IVF fluids. I had the MRI. I think I went in on the weekend, and I had the MRI booked already for the Wednesday. And I saw the gynecologist on the Monday, and he did an internal scan, and the gynecologist said that I had a cyst on my left ovary, which might be causing some of the pain, because it was as big as my ovary, and discussed the possibility of maybe having that removed, but obviously IVF. And then I had the MRI on the Wednesday. It took a really, was it the Tuesday or the Wednesday? I think it was the Wednesday, but it took a really long time to get the MRI results. That was the biggest hold up. I did eventually get them late on Thursday or Friday afternoon, I can't remember which, and it showed that I did have a fistula, but it also showed a thickening of my bowel, and they said that it could be Crohn's at the time, and obviously that would be putting in a massive problem, and everything needed to get sorted before we could go back to IVF. So obviously I had a little cry. They left me for a bit, and then they came back and we discussed things, and then was hoping to go home on the Friday, but they decided to keep me in for the weekend. But it was really hard because it was coming up to the Christmas period. Loads of people, like staff, had the time off. And yeah, it just wasn't pleasant to be in the hospital during that time of year. I've previously done it the other way, where I was in January and I was in for New Year's, and that wasn't particularly pleasant either, but at least that was easier than Christmas. And the staff volumes and stuff are the same, so it wasn't great. So I got home on Christmas Eve, and I felt better. I did some oral antibiotics for a week, and then I had an appointment with my original consultant, and this was a complete eye-opener. It was really like nothing that I expected. Like everything I got told in the hospital, it was like they told me like the smallest fraction of the actual MRI scan and everything. So I was in for a complete shock when I saw my consultant, who I just saw 2 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago. I saw him 3 weeks ago. I've had so many doctors and hospital appointments. It's been epic. So the MRI showed that I do have a fistula, which is why the abscess keeps not healing, keeps recurring. However, the MRI did not show whether or not the fistula went to my bowel or to my pelvic floor, because I had an infection in my pelvic floor way back in 2016, 2017 from that surgery. They're wondering if it's some leftover of the collection that's filling the fistula to the abscess. So we needed to address that issue. The scan also showed, as they said in the hospital, that I had a thickening of my intestines. However, it could be down to previous surgery because I did have part of my bowel removed. It could be celiacs, it could be Crohn's. Further investigation on that may be needed. The biggest issue, the biggest problem that I was not informed about, or was not told about, was not even discussed, they didn't even breathe the word of it, was that, and obviously, like, I'm not holding anyone responsible for it because it was literally like just before Christmas and everybody wanted to go home, and the MRI technician didn't have as much time as probably needed to go through the whole scan before needing to give the consultants the results for me in the hospital. But on further analysis, it showed that on my left side, on my lower intestines, on the bend, I have a massive cyst. I think they said it was 5 by 6 centimeters, this cyst, so it's about the size of a custard cream, my husband's pointed out, and it is an endometriosis cyst, which was why the camera couldn't get past the bend because the cyst was stopping it, which was why I ended up being in a lot of pain. So my consultant, who is we'll just call him my fistula consultant, shall we? He recommended that he would get in touch with my gynecologist, who I had seen at the hospital, and get his approval for me to be referred to the endometriosis specialist at Liverpool, and that the cyst be removed because it was causing me pain, and obviously it wasn't good being next to my intestines. However, it was very complicated, and he was extremely sorry this wasn't the result that we wanted, and sorry about how everything had gone. And yeah, I didn't ask for more details about how complicated the cyst and bowel issue was because, quite frankly, that I was in big enough shock finding out the cyst anyway. We weren't expecting it to be such a big deal, so my husband didn't come to the appointment with me. And I left trying not to cry, to be honest with you. So we had other appointments and other things sorted out over the next few weeks. My consultant needed the names of my previous specialists and things from when I had my pelvic floor collection and for my endometriosis. So I had to email that to his nurse, And then the plan going forward was that I would have a virtual colonoscopy to try and find out where the fistula went to, the pelvic floor or my bowels, because while I was in the hospital and having IV antibiotics, my abscess completely healed over, so that's kind of ironic. So the plan to put a string in to drain out the fistula wasn't viable because it closed up and there was no point making a new hole and causing more problems and more things for my body to heal. I saw my gynecologist a week. I saw my fistula specialist on the Monday, and then a week on the following Friday, I saw my gynecologist. During that time, my body decided, you've had antibiotics, you think you're okay, we're going to fuck you up. And I got another perineal abscess in the same place that I got it before, but not the actual same place, if that makes sense. So it was still in the same area on my bottom, but it was in the same square, but instead of it being in the middle before where it wasn't healing, it was slightly further above, if that makes sense, but it was still in the same overall area. And I so did not want to go to A&E again to have minor surgery and everything. So I went to my GP. He prescribed me some antibiotics, and I asked for a higher dosage of antibiotics because the antibiotics that he prescribed are the ones that I'd had previously before for my abscess, and quite frankly, they did nothing, and that's why I ended up in A&E. So I asked for the antibiotics that I'd had in the hospital, which are a really strong dosage and do make you feel really nauseous and sick, and just don't make you feel great, to be honest, but they do their job, and that's what you want when you've got an abscess and an infection. I would happily give up food to cure what was wrong with me without having to go to an A&E. And I previously, when I'd had the abscess issue before, I'd done a lot of research on abscesses, and so I had a hot bath with Epsom salts in it and nothing else, and I would just soak in the bath to try and draw out the pus from the fistula into the abscess area. So the abscess area would pop itself, basically. It would get so full it would pop itself. And I did that for about 3 days, about 20 to 40 minutes in the bath at a time, with like at least 3 to 5 cups of Epsom salts in the water, and I had a pretty high bath as well, so that's why I did slightly more cups of Epsom salts than it actually recommends. And it was getting to that point where if it hadn't sorted itself out by the Friday or the weekend, I was going to have to go back into hospital. I was going to have to go to A&E to get it popped or to get it removed because it was starting to affect my walking and things like that. Luckily, I'm really, really pleased that I had an Epsom salt bath, and then I got out and I stayed in the towel and I was just in bed. And because of the Epsom salts, obviously it dries your skin a little bit, so it tightens your skin, and so I kept flexing my leg and my bottom, and it popped on its own. It was really disgusting that it popped on its own, and obviously so much gunk and stuff came out of it, and yeah, it was not a pleasant experience, but I'm happy it popped itself. I then went back the following day, which was the Friday, to my GP to get him to check it because I'd rather play it safe after having so many other infections, and so much stuff did come out. I needed for him to check it and just pacify me, I suppose. And he gave me another dose of antibiotics to take with what I was already taking. He also gave me some tablets for my stomach lining to help protect it, because the antibiotics that I'd asked for and I'd had in the hospital can actually cause ulcers in your stomach because they're so strong. He also wanted me to take an anti-inflammatory because I can't take ibuprofen because it upsets my intestines. However, it was what he prescribed was out of stock, so I didn't get that prescription in the end. But he said it looked like it was already starting to heal. Now all the stuff was out of it. It looked good. It looked healthy, and just to carry on the antibiotics and just to come back if I had more problems, because there was nothing we could do. There was nothing we could do because we were waiting for the virtual colonoscopy appointment to find out where the fistula went to. So we were kind of in limbo. And I think I've said this before, but I am in Southport. However, all outpatients are at Ormskirk. So there was a bit of travelling involved to get to the virtual colonoscopy appointment and to my gynaecologist, who was also there as well. So by the time we'd got through all of that and I was starting to recover from that, we were back to the gynaecologist appointment. I haven't had a gynaecologist in quite some time because I've tended to ended up having my doctor and then my doctor just handing me back over to my endometriosis specialist every time, because obviously I've seen him for several years now and it is an ongoing issue. However, we're in a different part of the country now, and so it's a completely different endometriosis specialist. So we have to go back through the original line. We can't zigzag. We have to follow the straight path, which is just how it is, and it doesn't really bother me, to be honest. I know quite a lot of people have said they found it frustrating for me, but I've not really been that bothered by it. So we went and saw the gynecologist. He is epically amazing and awesome and level-headed and just gives really good advice. So we basically sat down, we discussed, my backstory, my previous issues. He already had the majority of it when I saw him in the hospital, and obviously all my notes and stuff. And obviously we talked about IVF and stuff like that. And right now he would like me, if possible, to just jump back into IVF as soon as possible, to be honest with you. No surgery for the cysts. And if we could get away with not having to fix the fistula, then that would be great too. However, I'm personally not happy with that because, I literally just had another abscess. So my body is, producing all this crap. Especially, I found it particularly hard because we were only maybe 3 weeks out from me being in hospital. So I was only maybe 2 or 3 weeks out of having a ridiculous dosage of antibiotics. So I was pretty disappointed. Also, they have no idea what caused the infection when I was in hospital. They don't know if it was related to the cyst or to the fistula. So we carried on with the plan to do the virtual colonoscopy. And then as soon as we get the results for that and we can sort out the fistula problem, we can go back into IVF, which has just made me so, so, so happy. The plan is to at least do the egg collection and then decide if we want to have one go of IVF, or do the 3 full goes of IVF and try and get pregnant before having surgery, or have the surgery after the egg collection and stuff. That's still open to discussion and debate and stuff, depending on how we feel and everything. Because can you imagine having massive surgery on your intestines to remove a cyst and having a newborn baby? A toddler. So, and it's how long can I live with all this pain and stuff. So I am doing the post-op injection. My gynecologist is happy to approve the post-op injection for a while longer. IVF have said goodbye to me until all the fistula stuff is fixed. I had the virtual colonoscopy 2 days ago. From when I'm doing this video now, it'll probably be maybe a week ago, but when this video goes up, there is nothing really virtual about it other than the scan. If you've had an endoscopy or a colonoscopy, then you totally know what I'm talking about, because I still had to have a laxative drink. Even worse, I had to have a part of the laxative drink mixed. It was a really small solution of the laxative drink mixed with water, which contains part of the dye for the scan, and I had to drink that. Which, to be honest, that was the easiest laxative solution I've taken of the 3 that I've had to date so far. It just tasted aniseedy, and it was really thick like syrup, and it was a bit gross, but what can you do? But it was like, it didn't upset my intestines too much, and it wasn't really painful, and I thought it was really fast acting, and it worked really well. However, once we got to the hospital, I had to obviously remove all my clothes. I had to have a cannula inserted in my arm, and they obviously, because it was still a CT scan, so they put a cannula in your arm and they give you a solution that makes you feel like you're peeing yourself, which contains the dye so they can see everything that runs through. And then I had the gas tube hooked up to my bottom, and then because the laxative gets rid of everything out of there, so everything is flat, so the gas then inflates it all for everything to run through and to have a clearer picture. It was carbon dioxide, and I feel that has made a massive difference to how quickly it then passed through my system. I was expecting to take 24 to 48 hours to recover, but I recovered within 4 to 6 hours, really. So that was really good, because obviously the carbon dioxide is more natural, and your body absorbs it and passes through easier than other gases. However, it was extremely uncomfortable, because obviously your body being filled with gas is not natural, and it is really uncomfortable in your stomach and your intestines. I laid on my back and had scans done, then I laid on my stomach, which helped ease some of the gas, and had scans done, and then I had my chest done as well, which I was not expecting, and I think I had scans done on my left side as well. So I am a bit concerned that maybe it means the fistula does go to my pelvic floor, and if it does, I don't know how that's going to get fixed and what other problems that's going to cause. I'm fingers crossing that it is a fistula connected to my bowel, and we can just put a string in and just move on like that, because that would be so much easier. I also have like, it goes Monday following Friday, Monday the following Friday. So by the time this video goes up, I will just be a couple of days away from seeing another specialist about my bowels. I think this is the thing, sometimes you don't always know, the letters don't always tell you what the appointments are for. I'm pretty certain that this appointment is for my bowels, to talk about whether or not I've got celiacs, Crohn's, thickening of my bowel, that sort of thing. However, if we're not having surgery to remove the cyst, we're not going to be able to take any biopsies, because nothing can get round the corner of my intestines where the cyst is. So it's not something I think that we're going to be able to address right now, or even in the next few months, unless we've got no option but to have surgery and remove stuff. So right now the plan is to get the fistula started and get back to IVF. I am still waiting for an appointment, or to be told about an appointment for the results of the virtual colonoscopy. They said all the images showed up really well and have everything that they needed, so I'm crossing my fingers, because as far as I'm aware, there was nothing else we could do other than they literally create a new hole in my abscess area and try and figure out where it goes from that. So that has been my month and a half update on everything that's been going on. I've been pretty sick. I've spent a lot of time laying down and in bed. My poor little intestines are not doing very well, as you can imagine, because it's gone laxative, IV antibiotics, all antibiotics. Then I think I had a week or two break, and then it's more oral antibiotics, and then I've had more laxative, and so there's no good or bad bacteria in my intestines at the moment, so they're obviously not the happiest little things. Well, obviously intestines are really big, but they're not happy at all, and I am just trying to do what I can for them and get them in a better place. But obviously I don't know if more laxatives and antibiotics are in my future, so I'm not doing too much. I am about to celebrate my birthday soon as well, so I'm fingers crossing everything stays well for that, because I just want a little break right now. I've had enough of hospitals and doctors and everything. So I hope you're all well. I have got quite a few more videos planned. This has been my longest video to date so far. I am not going to crop it down. If you made it this far, send me a comment and I'll reply and tell you how grateful I am for watching, basically. I really hope you all had a good Christmas and December and New Year's. I was so glad to be home. You have no idea how grateful I was to be home. I kept thanking my husband for everything. Thank you for the cup of tea. Thank you for the warm, hot food. Unless you've been in hospital, you probably don't understand how bad it can be. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for staying subscribed to my channel. I know my updates have not been as frequent as I wanted them to be. I am obviously still trying to figure out how to get everything going with the video content that I want to create and my health stuff. I'm trying to find a balance. That's what that was. That was me trying to find a balance. So I really hope you're all well, like I said, and I will see you in my next video. I've got a few more plans, so I'm really excited what I'm going to share. Some of those actually that I'm going to record this week will probably up before this video is, but there's other stuff coming too. I really hope you're well. I have a Facebook group, which I will link below. It's called, you can search for it on Facebook, and it's called Chronically Confident. And it has a small group of other women with chronic illnesses where we all chat and connect, and I do weekly Facebook lives in there. On Instagram, I have a website and a blog, which I am trying to, you know, same as YouTube, trying to balance how often I can create content for it. And I have a fortnightly newsletter as well, where I talk about living with a chronic illness and chronic illness tips and stuff like that. So yeah, give this video a thumbs up if you've watched all the way to the end, so then I know how many people have watched all the way to the end, because this is, like I said, my longest video. We're up to like nearly 30 minutes and I'm not going to edit. So thank you for watching so much. I will catch you in my next video. Bye guys!